That's awesome, Lena. And then we also have today with us Violet, who is our Director of Residential Services. Violet, can you tell us a little bit about our shelter programs?
The Violence Prevention Center has an emergency 45-day shelter program. And while we accept men, women, and children, and while our clients are in shelter, they have access to counseling, advocacy, and housing programs. And our goal is to empower our clients, allow them to start healing from their trauma, and get them to the next step so they can get on with their lives.
That is great. And unfortunately, our Director of Counseling, Terry, could not be with us today. She had a prior engagement. But Violet is going to explain to you a little bit about our counseling program.
Absolutely. So in addition to offering counseling to our shelter clients, we also have a walk-in counseling program. The program is for adults and children. It is completely free and confidential, like all of our services. And they offer individual, group counseling, family counseling. We also offer art therapy. And that can be short-term or long-term based on client need.
Wait, I want to clarify though, the family counseling is just for our survivor and their children, not for the survivor and the batterer.
Yeah, we do not provide batterer treatment programs here.
Yes, that is a good point. And so I also think it's important to mention at the time, all of our services are free of charge. And they're always safe and confidential. So anybody can come to us to get help, find out their options without financial worries or worry that their abuser might find out or whoever, anyone else is going to find out. So I think that's really important to note. So October, as I mentioned before, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so due to COVID and the gathering restrictions, we can't really function as we normally do and have like our candlelight vigils or our awareness events. And so we thought we'd bring these weekly, just short half-hour lunch and learns so that you as a community can kind of learn about the things that we do, the things we don't do. We can do a little bit of myth busting about domestic violence and what it is and what it isn't, and just how someone can get help or how you can help someone. And so with that, let's just go ahead and get started. So I think a lot of times domestic violence, people believe it doesn't happen in their communities. It would never be on their street or in their faith community or anything like that. But really, we all know it is because of the amount of people we serve. But what is one thing that we all wish that everyone listening knew about domestic violence?
So like you were saying, Melissa, first, how common it actually is. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by a family member or intimate partner. So that equals out to about 10 million women, men, and children every year that are involved in domestic violence situations.
And I want to add that it's complex, right? There's no clean-cut answer about DV. It's super complex. We always think about historically physical abuse, right? But it's much more than that. You're going to have the psychological and the mental and emotional. I've had quite a few clients who have been physically assaulted said that they wish they'd rather be physically assaulted every day than the emotional torment they went through by the batterer. So it's just so complex.
Yeah.
Right, and domestic violence also doesn't discriminate. It crosses all lines of race, gender identity, socioeconomic levels. Basically, anybody you know could be a victim of domestic violence or a survivor of domestic violence or a perpetrator of domestic violence. They're just people like everybody else.
Right, I think the misconception, and I've actually had someone I know ask me how many minority survivors we have. Do I see a lot of minority survivors? And I was actually no, because this idea that we have minority poverty is the primary target for domestic violence, and that's really inaccurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one point that I wish that everyone knew, is that it really can happen anywhere in any sort of socioeconomic line. So it just doesn't know any barriers, frankly.
Right. I think I hit this a lot is when it comes to DV, it's essentially controlling somebody by whatever means you can, right? So when you think about physical, it's easy, but it's more than that because they're trying to exert control over that other person.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we know it's so prevalent and it's possible that there are survivors of domestic violence watching right now, Violet, can you talk to a little bit about, if somebody's experiencing domestic violence, what should they be doing?
Okay, so first of all, please understand that the abuse is not your fault, okay? Abuse is always a choice by the abuser, okay? There's nothing you can do. You can't provoke it. It's never your fault. But if you have a support system, talk to somebody you trust. Make sure that this is not somebody who also talks to your abuser that can pass along information, even accidentally. And then reach out for help. We do have a 24-hour domestic violence hotline. It is always staffed 24 hours a day with trained advocates who are very compassionate people who will help you work through your feelings, help you figure out your next step, and sometimes even help figure out if you're being abused. Some of our questions are, am I being abused? Is this abuse? Because like Lena was talking about, some of it is very subtle. Some of it is very, it creeps up on you. Obviously you don't choose to be with an abuser, but we're here to help you recognize those signs and see what your next steps potentially could be. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to degrade you because you make different decisions. What we are is here to support and guide and empower.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, that is a good first step, to call our hotline.
Right. And if you, like, when you call the hotline, we'll safety plan, right? Safety plan with you. And if you don't want to leave, you want to stay, there's things you can do to kind of document the abuse. You can take photographs of injuries, anything you document, you want to put somewhere safe so that the abuser can't easily access it, right? You want to take any kind of important documents you might have, like birth certificates, whatever, and you want to put them with someone you trust so you can access them easy. Even though they're replaceable, it can be difficult to replace those. But at the end of the day, you can call our hotline and they'll work through the exact steps that is best for your situation.
Right,
But if you're ever in immediate danger, though, you can call the police. If you're ever in immediate danger, call 911. We have advocates at the courthouse 5 days a week for orders of protection.
Absolutely. And we can even help you safety plan if you are staying in your home.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I can imagine that if you were in the middle of crisis right now, that hearing those 5 or 6 things that you need to do can be extremely overwhelming. If you had to give advice to a survivor, someone that might think they're experiencing abuse but aren't really sure, if you had to tell them to do one thing, what would the one thing be for today?
Call our hotline. Really just reach out and get in touch with people who have been trained on this that can help you figure out your next step.
Yeah. That hotline is a great resource, 24 hours a day to just reach out to. The number is 618-235-0892, and it's available on our website or through any of our social media anytime you need it. So I think, we know national statistics, right, that say 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will be severely injured by an intimate partner within their lifetime. So it's likely that anybody watching today or watching later on either knows somebody that's been abused, has been abused themselves, or will know somebody that's being abused. So what is something, if you suspect or kind of think or aren't really sure, how do you help someone through an abusive situation? Lena, you want to handle that one?
The biggest thing right now, you can be a supporter for that person, right? And oftentimes it can be exhausting because we have victims that stay with their battery, just is what it is. But they'll often be isolated, right? Pulled from their family and friends. But if you're that one person that can be there through it all, when your friend is ready to get help, that's super, super important. And Violet will tell you, as a friend of a survivor or victim, you can always call our hotline to help you with what you can do to assist.
Absolutely, we can provide support for you. Excuse me, as a person who's concerned about somebody else, kind of figure out what's safe for you to do, what's not, and how you can be that support system. Because a lot of our survivors have lost that support system over time through isolation. So it's absolutely vital that they have somebody they can turn to when they need to.
Right. And bear in mind, we understand it's very difficult and it's exhausting, but understand how important it is.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you think for a little bit about, we're always hearing that people go back to their abuser, or they stay, or I hear that a lot out, just out and about, like, why do they stay? What's going on? Violet, can you just kind of myth bust a little bit about, like, what causes a survivor to stay with their abuser?
Right. So first of all, we're asking the wrong question. We're asking, why does the survivor stay, when we should be asking, why is the abuser hurting that person?
Right.
Okay. As for reasons why they stay, that's a multifaceted question. People stay for all kinds of reasons. They may love their abusers. They're not doing anything wrong by caring about somebody. Okay. Fear is obviously a big one. Fear of getting hurt. Fear of getting killed. Survivors are 75% more likely to be hurt or killed once they've left. The reason for this is that the abusive person now has lost control, and they are very angry about that. Some of the other things could be financial concern, housing concerns. How am I going to take care of my family? Do I have children with this person? Am I going to be able to feed my kids? Where are they going to go to school if I leave suddenly? And those are all things we can help with. We do have a housing program. We can help if you qualify to get into that, and try to kind of help support you as you get on to the next step of your journey. We are here to support and empower, and you're never really going to know what's going on with somebody's relationship unless you're involved in it. So again, and a lot of times it's shame. Our survivors feel ashamed. Now, of course, they shouldn't, but after you've been told by other people multiple times, you should leave, you should leave, you should leave, sometimes they can feel very ashamed. So we also help combat that.
Right. And at the end of the day, physical abuse is against the law, right? You should be safe in your home. But another thing I think is important to notice is, like Violet says, we don't fall in love with abuse. We just don't, right? So you're in this relationship with the hopes that that person you fell in love with is going to resurface. And we're going to have that cycle. You're going to have that explosion, that eggshell, the moments, and then waiting for that light that person you knew to come back with that hope, right? And you stay in that relationship with that cycle that continues and continues.
Right. And that doesn't make you stupid or that you deserve it. It just makes you human.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, we always see a lot of times that survivors have valid reasons to stay fairly frequently, whether that's to protect their children or because they can't eat. And that doesn't make anyone less deserving of help. They still need help to move through that. So I think that, that's one of the reasons why we're here.
I think we see quite frequently when it comes to children, right? So the victim or the survivor will stay with the batterer because, as Violet says, what is it? A devil I know. So if I stay with them, I know my kids will be okay. If I leave, there's a good chance that the batterer will get custody, visitation. Who knows what my children will endure? So exactly. We'll see a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we know that probably that we see people experiencing abuse or that are experiencing abuse, but we may not know how to identify it or what to look for. And I think we still have this culture where other people's marriages and relationships we need to stay out of and that kind of stuff. But what are some things you should look for and then follow up with the reach out if you see these things?
I think the first thing like I said before, you need to acknowledge is it's a control situation. It's not physical all the time. It's exerting control. And you can see those kind of tendencies. Like Violet said, you have to check in. You're receiving multiple phone calls over and over again. Have they been cut off from family and friends? So you want to look at these kind of little red flags in terms of a domestic violence relationship, right?
Right. And if you're in the relationship, your first red flag should be jealousy. There is no room for jealousy in a healthy relationship. And the abuser is always going to tell you it's for your own safety. I care about you. I don't want you working because I can support the family. And the reality is, the more people you're able to have contact with, the more likely you are to reach out for help. So the abuser is going to tightly control that, accuse you of cheating, control what you wear, where you go, anything they can do to isolate you from the help that you need. Right. So those should be very early warning signs.
And even as an onlooker, right? If I'm looking at my sister as in a relationship and I see these certain control signs, then I know that, okay, she might not tell me that's going on, but I can see that these are red flags of an unhealthy relationship. So I know that I need to be a supporter, or I can say, hey, you need this kind of resources are available for you.
Right. No, that's really awesome. So as we kind of wind down today's Lunch and Learn, and we'll be expanding on these topics even more in the future. One of the things that we always say around here at the agency is that all of our people are so passionate about helping survivors. Like, we are just very survivor-centered. We do what it takes to help a survivor in their journey, and we talk about being humbled by being part of it. But it's so clear that we all have so much passion. And why do you guys work here at this agency and do what we do?
So I think for me, and I just hit my 19th year with the agency, so it's been a little while, is just seeing our clients succeed. We are seeing these people at the lowest point in their lives, when they're scared and they're hurt and they're traumatized. Just to be able to see the strength that they have to pull themselves up and utilize our services. These are some of the strongest people you are ever going to meet. They may not think so, but to start over from the worst point in your life and succeed. Oh my gosh, I'm in awe of our clients every single day. And then watching them get into their own housing, watching the kids thrive, and then just having them come back sometimes and check in with us, give us a call or come to the center, so that we can see and they can let us know that they're doing okay. That's what keeps you going.
For me, it's a little bit more personal. I'm a child DV. My mom was in an unhealthy relationship since the age of 16, all the way up to her death at 43. So I witnessed a lot of it. So my heart is for those kids, right, in this relationship, in this environment that don't have a voice. So if you can save one woman or one survivor, one victim, you can potentially save generations, right, by breaking that cycle. So it's really about the kids for me, and really kind of empowering them, because they're the true victims in the need of all of it, right?
Yeah, I think that's something that is really important to mention too, and that we are planning on expanding on, is that domestic violence can be generational, like it can follow cycles. And so the work we do with children in our counseling program and our therapy program, and the way they're treated in the shelter, really works to break future generations of violence, which is one of the reasons that I find is really important that we do. So, one of the reasons that I am involved with the Violence Prevention Center is that I had a friend experiencing domestic violence 12 or 13 years ago, and she had gone to the courthouse by herself to file for an order of protection. She'd gotten brave, and no one was there to help her. And she left, and she didn't go back for another 7 months because it was just so overwhelming for her, right? I think, and now that I work here, we see that more frequently. And then 7 months later, she came back, and actually you, Violet, happened to be the court advocate at the time, because you've been here for a very long time. And you held her hand through it. Like, you helped her fill out paperwork, you helped her cry when she needed to cry. We weren't making permanent decisions that day. Like, everything felt like she was in control, because she was. And it really changed the course of her life. She was able to leave her abuser. And so, that's one of the reasons why I'm so impassioned by the work that we do here, and really proud to be part of this agency. So, if you are watching this and you need help, please feel free to reach out to our hotline. If you'd like us in the future to cover specific topics or answer some questions that you're like, but what about this? Feel free to shoot us an email or a direct message, or even just comment here, and we'll make sure that we address it in the future. And then other than that, I think this has been a great first effort. Is there anything you guys would like to leave? Anything we missed that you're like, oh, I can't end this without somebody knowing this?
Just reach out for help if you need it. We're here.
Right.
We're here to help you along.
Keep an open mind, right? Get away from the mentality of what DV was, and see what it actually is. You know what I mean? I think that's super, super important.
Yeah, I do actually think that is really important. We frequently imagine that domestic violence looks like every Hallmark movie that's depicted, like with the black eye and the heavy makeup and sunglasses, and it just infrequently looks like that, right? Like, that's
Right, and like we were talking about before, you can be abused your entire life and never be hit once.
Yeah.
It doesn't look the same for everybody.
Yeah, and so if you're experiencing any of that, feel free to reach out for help. If you'd like to learn more about any of that, I think we'll be diving into those topics over the next 4 weeks. I think this is a really great way to learn. We'll also put up some resources in the comments of this chat so you can learn more and figure out other ways you can be involved. But other than that, I think this was a great conversation. So we will see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.